Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views and News, and I'm Faisal Rehman live from our Islamabad studios today. A very important story, and this is an issue which we have been talking about for a very long time. Extremism in India, as we say that India is no more a secular state. India has become a country for the Hindus, by the Hindus, and perhaps only for the Hindus to live. No more a country for the minorities. And remember, when you talk about 200 million Muslims living in India, that doesn't mean that they are a minority. That is almost the similar amount that lives in Pakistan. But interestingly now, the BJP and the extremists of Hindutva, they have come up with a new narrative to start killing the Muslims, start the genocide of the Muslims, eliminate the minorities so that 100% Hindus should live in India. For that, there are open hate speeches, and no person has ever been able to in fact pinpoint fingers towards them because they are the extremists. People are afraid that they'll kill you, and this is exactly what is happening out there. Open hate speeches in which the people are incited, the Hindus are incited, the extremist Hindus are incited to buy weapons and perhaps better weapons so that you eliminate the Muslims. What exactly is going on when you talk about the human rights issue? Where is the West? Why are they so silent over such statements? This is when we see the bias of the West, when we see the kind of inclination they have towards India. It's a reality, unfortunately. So now is India heading towards anti-Muslim genocide, which has already started, whether you talk about Kashmir, you talk about Assam, you talk about the Seven Sister States, what is happening out there, or you talk about certain other areas where lynching has become a regular ritual. Anybody and anybody could be picked up and could be lynched to death just because the person is a Muslim or a minority as such. Now, when you talk about the Hindutva mobs, they have made sure that they should be in huge numbers, all equipped, whether they are assigned to torch the properties of the Muslims, their businesses, their houses, or perhaps to take the lives of the Muslims. Not even a single FIR would be registered against them. This is unfortunately a phenomena that's prevailing for a very long time, but that is really overwhelming in the Indian society. Now, another important factor, and that is about the international community, as I earlier mentioned, overlooking genocidal issues and perhaps not taking any measures against that. Now, when we talk about another concept of the extremist Hindus, that is Hindu Rashtra, designed to make India for only the Hindus, so no other minority could live in it. Very, very unfortunate, but this is the way it is. But before I introduce you to our panelists, our production team has prepared a report. Let's watch that first.
India's three-day summit, which was loaded with the Muslim hatred, held from 17th to 19th December 2021 under the supervision of the controversial Hindutva figure Yasir Hannan in northern India's Haridwar city, and is a practical example of structural and indirect violence which is seeping deep into the veins of the world's largest secularistic democracy.
Muslim बहुत कम है, तो उस गांव के धनाढ्य व्यक्तियों का कर्तव्य बनता है कि जहां 10, 15, 20, 25, 50 लोग मुसलमान हैं, उस गांव में उनकी संपत्ति अधिक से अधिक दामों में खरीदकर उन्हें गांव से बाहर कर। तो मैं तो भैया कम से कम 10 मुसलमानों पर SC ST की झूठी धाराएं लगवाकर उन्हें जेल भिजवा चुका। अगर तुम कुछ कर सकते तो परेशान करो उन्हें, इतना परेशान करो कि अपना घर बेचने पे मजबूर हो जाए।
महाराज जी, मैं वचन देती हूँ मेरे प्राण भी चले जाए, मुझे उसका कोई चिंता की बात ही नहीं है, लेकिन 2029 में मुसलमान प्रधानमंत्री आप सब लोग नहीं बनने देंगे, ऐसी वचनबद्धता दे। अपने काम को इतना सक्षम बनाए, इतनी अपनी आबादी को आगे बढ़ाए और मार दें। इनकी जनसंख्या को अगर खत्म करना है तो हम मारने को तैयार है, जेल में जाने को तैयार है। अगर हम 100 लोग भी सैनिक बन गए और इनके 20 लाख भी मार दिए हमने, तो हम विजयी हैं, हम जेल में जाने को को तैयार है।
The acute focus of the summit was to eradicate the minorities, especially Muslims from India, and multiple speakers which participated in the summit made calls to kill minorities and attack their religious spaces. Most prominently, many political leaders attended the summit, including BJP politicians Ashwini Upadhyay and Udita Tyagi, which depicts that the summit and all its heinous suggestions were politically supported by the ruling party. The speakers of the summit, including Yati Narsinghanand and Sadhvi Annapurna, General Secretary of the Hindu Mahasabha, suggested that better weapons must be used against Muslims and there must be a mass murder of the Muslims as a proof that Narendra Modi's India is no more for Indians, but it is just for Hindus. However, it is a point to ponder that whether this India is for all Hindus or it is only for the higher castes. Undoubtedly, the Modi's India is only remained a secularistic democracy just for attending and speaking with the grand summits like the recent US-hosted Democracy Summit, in which Modi claimed that democratic spirit, including respect for rule of law and pluralistic ethos, is ingrained in Indians. However, such summits loaded with minority hatred are actually the warning bells for the international organizations, specifically those which are focusing the human rights, that India is no more safer for the minorities, and if serious actions are not taken in time, world would witness another systemic genocide.
And to talk about this, let me introduce you to our panelists. We have with us in our studio on my right is Yasir Janjua Sahab, who's a senior analyst. Janjua Sahab, pleasure to have you, sir. Thank you so much for your time. And we'll also be talking to Mustafa Abdullah Baloch Sahab. He's going to join us on Skype. He's a known columnist. Thank you very much, Mustafa Abdullah Baloch Sahab, for your time, sir. Pleasure to have you on the show. And we'll also be talking to Muhammad Taimur Khan Sahab, who is a research associate of ISSI. He's going to join us in a little while. But let me start off from you, Janjua Sahab. You heard exactly what these extremist Hindu leaders were saying. Let me put it this way. India is no more a secular state, sir. We have been talking about it for a very long time, ever since Modi took charge as the Prime Minister in 2014, sir. This is exactly what we were expecting. We were telling the whole world that this extremist regime is going to create a lot of problem, not only for the regional countries, not only for the Muslim countries, but for themselves also. Now you're talking about the minorities that include 200 million Muslims, sir. That's a huge population. And they say that forget about buying expensive telephones, but make sure you should buy expensive guns. And one of their leader, in fact, mentioned that if I could get hold of 100 volunteers, I'll be able to kill 2 lakh Muslims. Now, you are talking about this kind of a mindset, sir, whereas Pakistan wants to have negotiations, Pakistan wants to have talks with them so that peace process should move forward, sir. You think we are living in a fool's paradise who are thinking about peace process and dealing with such extremists, sir?
No,
your take.
Faisal, thank you very much for inviting me on the show. With such a fascist regime and a country which is full of hate, you can't have peace with them. You can't talk peace with them. Ironically, this World Religious Summit that happened in India, every other religion was invited except for the Muslims, and Muslims represent the largest minority group, if at all you call it a well, technically it is a minority because Hindus are more, but it's the largest minority group, and 200 million is more than the population of most of the countries of the world. And none of them was invited. And coincidentally, when this was happening there in India, Pakistan was hosting the foreign ministers of OIC countries. Although the topic of discussion was different, but it's something that Pakistan should take up with OIC, that why Muslims were, forget about Pakistan, there is Saudi Arabia, there is UAE, Jordan, Kuwait, Muscat, Indonesia, Malaysia, Bangladesh, why were they not invited there on that religious summit? However, what you were saying that one says that if I have 100 volunteers, I would start killing the Muslims. I wish they try to do that. They will meet their Waterloo the day they start doing that. They've started doing that in small numbers and bits and bobs, but the moment they go on to the mass scale, that would be the end of India. That would be India. That would be end of India, because the world would actually see their true face, which is actually coming out, otherwise known to the world as well. You know, in the last few days, the British Parliament, the Europeans, they've all accepted what is going on in Kashmir. So the Hindutva ideology of Modi and the RSS and BJP, which is sort of an offshoot of RSS. This is coming out, and unfortunately, Indians, the majority of Indians, the Hindus, they should realize that they don't stand to gain anything from this fascism, from this extremism, because if they want to live in peace with the Muslims, the 200 million Muslims, they will prosper. But if they start doing these things, there's going to be bloodshed in the country. And this has been happening in the past, when it happened in Gujarat, when it happened in Bombay in the 90s. What happened in those areas? And recently what has been happening in Delhi, when they have started lynching in the streets of Delhi, the peace of Delhi has gone down to drains. So it's India who will lose.
And that was interestingly the time when Donald Trump was visiting India, sir.
Yeah. And what I'm trying to say here is, yes, we are worried about our brothers on the other side of the border. However, I feel very sorry for the maybe 1 billion or so Hindus, that because of the extremism of the few goons of BJP, they're going to take their country down, and nobody has the courage to stop them. The BJP is running without any stoppage, and we see the carnage that is going on in the streets of Delhi and otherwise in India. However, now, if this continues, this is going to be the end of it. I would probably say it's still what you probably would have heard. Now they're changing the delimitation in Kashmir as well. They've added 1 assembly seat in the valley, and they've added 6 more seats in Jammu area. And obviously Ladakh has been taken out. Why was that done? Because to liquidate the majority of Muslims in Kashmir. I would urge the Muslims actually to pick up their bags and go to Kashmir. They will still be better off because they're in majority there. Although 800,000 Indian troops are there, but they will continue to keep their majority, and Muslims, wherever they will be in majority, the Indians will not be able to do what they are doing there to them where they are in a minority. So I personally think Muslims also they don't have to feel afraid. They're a strong community. You see, for 1 long year, majority of the Sikhs came out on the roads for the agriculture movement, and they were sitting there, and they have gone back with their demands met. So if the Muslims really decide that we want to take this on, we can no longer accept this, I think they can do something. There's a lot of people. 200 million is a lot of people.
Absolutely, sir. This is not a small number. I mean, if you talk about the Hindu majority in certain areas, but there are so many states like Kashmir, or for that matter, even Assam, second largest in terms of Muslim population, and so many others. But having said that, because I believe one thing is for sure, sir, this extremist mindset, which was always there, but now they have ignited that. And it's everywhere, and especially when you have leaders of this caliber, sir, who are trying to, even expose their own fault lines, then God bless India, honestly speaking. Now, coming to you, sir, Mustafa Saab, one important factor, and that is about the Hindu extremism out there, sir. Was there, is there, but it has really, started to show its effects recently during the last 7, 8, 9 years. Now, if I may ask you a very straightforward question, that is India heading towards anti-Muslim genocide? It seems as if they are. Your take, sir.
Faisal, first of all, thank you for having me in your show. But I would like to add that, the way Modi and his party, BJP, is leading towards India towards a fascist and radical anti-Muslim country, it's appalling to see, because the way Pakistani Muslims have been facing all this, they are seeing that, okay, the Muslims of India, they are facing so much wrath of Hindutva. So this is a very serious situation, and Modi is trying to, disintegrate all those communities who were earlier integral part of India. Right now, the India is not the same shining India. It's more of a radical India. It's more of an extremist India. The way they have tried to, push the Kashmiris towards the wall, and they are trying to change the demographic of the Kashmiri people, by influxing a lot of Hindu people from across India to make the population of Kashmiri Muslims into a minority. which is very sad. And the way they revoked Article 370 shows that they had very ugly intentions. And also, we cannot forget the way Modi was also a much famous person in terms of as a butcher of Gujarat. You know, the way he mass murdered Muslims, and the way I was watching the video in your earlier intro. The way they are instigating violence against Muslims, it's very sad. The region cannot afford this critical mindset against Muslims. You know, Muslims with 20 crore population in India facing this kind of situations is very sad.
Indeed. Now, another important factor, sir, when you talk about this design of Narendra Modi and his team members, I would say, sir, whether you talk about Rajnath Singh or Mr. Jaishankar, Ajit Doval, Amit Shah, I mean, these are the characters who were extremist, and they are planning to make India a Hindu Rashtra, sir. If this is the case, sir, don't you think that the retaliation from the minorities could actually break India?
See, if I can give you an example, like for example, a very known Muslim celebrity of India, Shah Rukh Khan, he faced recently a rap of being a Muslim. Just because he's a Muslim, his son was persecuted because of a false case. So the people, the influential Muslims in India, they are also facing all these consequences. And people like Amit Shah and Tyagi, they have taken India to another like extremist level. You know, the Muslims are feeling exhausted in India. They cannot breathe. They are maybe trying to change their locality. They cannot like further live in this kind of extremist atmosphere. So Modi has all those ugly intentions to take India to an extremist country where there is no place for any minority and the Muslims especially. So the situation is going very, very, very devastating. And I feel that if international community does not intervene and stop Modi from this madness, then things will be very, very, very sad.
Now, sir, this there was a particular, I would say, a forum started from 17th and ended on the 19th of December, was held in the northern area, Uttarakhand enclosure. Now, interestingly, sir, when you look at the Chief Minister of UP, the state which has more population than Pakistan, sir, look at his attire, the way he dresses up, an extremist again, sir. And now, in order to make sure that the UP elections are won again by the BJP's party, I mean, they have done a lot in that particular area, opened up motorways, and so much more has been done. But sir, looking at what recently has been happening, whether against the Sikh community in Haryana or Punjab, and later on it was all over India, and now this particular measure against the Muslims, I mean, to buy or to snatch their properties, kill them, eliminate them, and exactly do whatever you wish to in order to make sure that nobody should be able to even utter a word. Now, so looking at India, 20 million Muslims inside India.
200 million.
200 million, sir, 20 crore. Around 22 crore on the eastern side, on their west, on Pakistan when you talk about. Then you have Bangladesh on one side, sir, which they have been able to manipulate to a certain extent, that so many people from the Jamaat-e-Islami group were hanged, were killed. And I mean, those who did something in 1971, and they were actually not supposed to be touched, but they did it. So, sir, their influence is also increasing on the neighboring countries. Forget about Pakistan, that is the only country perhaps that can put up a challenge to them. Don't you think, sir, this could lead into something which the world will not be able to control, sir? At the end of the day, you have Taliban, their regime in Afghanistan, sir. When you talk about the Muslims living in Pakistan, sir, when they'll see their own brothers and sisters and their families being slaughtered in India, sir, they won't sit quiet. People in Bangladesh already are talking about it, and there's a lot going on that side. Forget about what media is showing. Media isn't showing anything. What is that supposed to mean, sir?
Before I say anything else about Bangladesh, I have to say, the Bangladesh of the 70s after its independence is not the Bangladesh today. They don't have the relations with India that they used to have. They now have water dispute with them, and there is otherwise the bigger issue of the
refugees,
the nationalization law that was most of it was for the people in West Bengal in India, and the Bangladeshi government and the people have not liked it. So what I'm saying is that it's not all that rosy picture for India on its borders. It has problems with Nepal. It has problems with Sri Lanka. However, the Sikh factor, I hope you will take that into account, that now there is a referendum going on across the world.
UK?
In the UK, and they want it to be held in the other countries as well. The Sikh referendum. That's a clear sign by the Sikhs that they don't want to live in India. So what kind of democracy are we talking about? They say we are the biggest democracy. The Muslims are unhappy. The Sikhs are unhappy. The Christians are marginalized. Forget about Christians and Muslims. Their own Dalit community, those are supposed to be Hindus, they are the ones who are marginalized to the extent that we can never imagine treating a brother Muslim in our faith like that. They treat their own Hindus like that. So forget about the Muslims.
untouchables.
Untouchables. So I am, although I hate to say this, but I have to say this, I'm actually very happy. As I said before, this will tell the world the true face of Modi and the fascist India. This will tell the world what they are. Yes, there will be some loss of lives, but at least nobody has till date won the independence or freedom without giving sacrifices. Kashmiris have given sacrifices since 1990. So the Muslims of mainland India, of the provinces inside or the states inside India, they just have to get up and show the world we cannot be subdued the way you want to do it. There are 200 million people. India will be exposed sooner or later. And we also have a duty, Muslim countries also have a duty. As I said, OIC conference was happening here and it's going to happen again in March. Muslim world should ask India, why now the biggest trading partners of India are in the Middle East. They should take the bull by the horns and ask the Indian government.
But so the government of UAE has allowed to make the largest temple.
Yeah.
So see,
so this goes out of the proviso of our program.
But this is what is
it's our own brother Muslim countries which have a responsibility that they are probably not fulfilling. We as Muslims and Bloc should stand up and tell India, you being the largest democracy or a huge economy or a vast population still doesn't matter to us. The day we do it, Indians will not be able to do it.
but Janjua, there's another point. I mean, Hindus are living all over the world, so is the case with the Muslims. Sometimes you'll be surprised to see the Pakistani flags, in fact, in certain countries where cricket is being played, and you will be surprised to know that Pakistanis live here as well. Forget about the Muslims, obviously there are a lot of Muslims there as well. Sir, if something of this sort starts in India, which most likely it will, it has in fact, sir, what would be the fate and the future of the Hindus living abroad in other Western countries for that matter? Don't you think that is also going to trigger some sort of a major collision?
To be honest, I don't think, because I've lived in the West, I've lived in the UK, US and the Middle East. There the expats live very, very congenially. Very rarely you will find the
Let me
extremists.
rephrase, what would be their role then?
If they are, well, but you still find a lot of extremists on that side in the West as well. Hindus, those who are funding, as a matter of fact, those who are funding BJP and RSS. So what I foresee is there will not be any trouble there, major trouble there, but yes, there is going to be something coming back to India. So not necessarily, again I could be wrong, but not necessarily there would be trouble. Let's say in England there's a vast Hindu population, the diaspora, Hindu and the Muslim population, and they coexist. By and large, they coexist. There have not been communal riots between Hindus and Muslims in England, even when there was a situation in Gujarat which was spiraling out of control. So I think it is in India that there's a problem, because most of the expats, Hindus or Muslims living in the West, are quite educated people. They understand the need for diversity. It is those extremists inside India, those BJP goons and RSS goons and those mobsters who end up doing these things. So you will not find anything like that happening on the streets of London or in Sydney or Melbourne, or for that matter in the US, where there is a lot of Indian population. They're all educated people there, so they don't get involved in these things. It is these ill-educated Indians living inside India who think that India belongs to them only, and they are mistaken if they think they can do it. And Indian designs, the government's designs, I mean, only few weeks ago, Vladimir Putin was there, and they've spent $5.8 billion to deploy S-400s. So their designs are showing they don't want to talk peace to Pakistan, and they don't want to talk peace to China. That's why they are doing all these things, militarily as well and within. Otherwise, who would make such a law whereby every other faith can become an Indian citizen, but not the Muslims?
Yes.
And then they talk of democracy. So this is just...
The CAA was very, very controversial.
Yeah. And you said that the West is sleeping over it. Yes, the West is sleeping over it, unfortunately for us, because India for them is a huge economy. Forget about the West. It's our own Muslim brothers who are sleeping over it.
Do you think that they're using India also to make sure that, there should be chaos in the area, and there should be some sort of an adversary for Pakistan and China at the same time, the way they are supporting the Indians?
That otherwise has been the grand design, If Russia sold them S-400s and France has sold them Rafales, so their war machines are working because they are selling their weapons to India. Although this should be one area which should become peaceful, and the world will see the fruits of peace, because there are two most populous countries in the world located in this region, and Pakistan being the 6th, 7th, and then Pakistan and Bangladesh. So Indian subcontinent with Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, we have a population that we almost are maybe half of the world's population, including China, if you say. So what I'm trying to say is the West is not interested. Otherwise, why would they be selling their weapons to them?
Because chaos in Asia suits them in one way or the other. It really doesn't make any difference to them, whoever dies, whatever happens. Now, sir, another very important factor coming to you, Mustafa Saab. I mean, we do understand that there are social websites such as Facebook or perhaps Twitter and so many more. But Facebook, since it's very, very, I think, largely used all over the world, sir, this whole 3-day summit or a moot, whatever you may call it, or was in fact live streamed, and it went on air. Nothing has been removed from those social media websites, and interestingly, a portion of the summit was live streamed on social media, sparking anger with the users using the hashtag which said Haridwar Genocide Meet and Haridwar Hate Assembly to call out on the far right groups. Now the point is, sir, don't you think this is also the responsibility of such individuals who are running those sites? Because unfortunately, whether you talk about Google, you talk about other similar huge websites, I mean, most of them are run by the Indians.
Yes, exactly. The point is that these social media applications have a social and moral responsibilities. So because these kind of videos, these kind of live streamings can create incitement to violence, and unfortunately, you rightly said that all these Google and Twitter or Facebook, they are some way or the other being influenced by Indians. So they have an influence on all these social media apps. But I would like to add one point that today, right now, seeing the current situation where Modi has taken India to, today we are, it's rightly to say that the two-nation theory, which Qaeda Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, he asserted, it's valid right now. In terms of, like, for example, but still in Pakistan, if you see the Hindus or the Christians, they're living with much more harmony. For example, an incident happened in Ghodki where a temple was attacked by some mob. But similarly, like in few minutes, like the local Muslims, they were the ones who were guarding the same temple. See, so there's a difference. The majority of Pakistanis are focused towards harmony. They are not like not welcoming the people who are not Muslims in Pakistan. But in India, we see that leaders, the political leaders like Modi himself, he's instigating the masses of who are against Muslims. So that's like taking. And one more point, that the reason why Modi is so hyper, I would say, is because the Kartarpur corridor, which played a vital role in bringing the Sikh community close to the Pakistanis. Like if you see, there are around 20 to 30 million Sikhs around the globe, and right now they have a soft corner for Pakistanis, and this is something which Modi will never like. So he's upset about that.
I do understand, sir. Then the approaching elections, I mean, anti-Pakistan rhetoric has always been the reason to win elections, and especially whenever you talk about the BJP. Now, Modi won elections in 2014 and later again after 4 years, and with a vast majority. Now, the point is, sir, the latest developments, whether in the form of the deployment of S-400 in Punjab or along the LOC, or you talk about the purchase of Rafales, as they said, you know, if we had those in 2019, the result of that dogfight would have been very different, okay? And then they say that, you know, perhaps now we want an extremist India. And a lot of people do believe that the year 2022, which is the next year, the approaching one, could be the year of a war, because the way they have in fact included Azad Kashmir as well as Gilgit-Baltistan in their map. Whenever you just click the map of India on any website, sir, those two areas would be a part of India. That's how they show, that's how narratives are built. Do you think they are planning for some sort of a false flag operation 1, or perhaps a limited scale war all along the LOC or something of that sort, sir?
See, knowing Modi and knowing the evil mindset of BJP, one can expect anything. They can go for this kind of madness. But point is, Pakistan is already alert, and the armed forces of Pakistan have already given a strong response earlier. So we are ready to face any challenges as far as our armed forces are concerned, as far as the strength of our state is concerned. But point is, Modi and the evil mindset of BJP can do anything possible just to give a message to the world that they have a strong influence in this region. But again, I would say that the world must take action, and all these, Mr. Janjua was rightly saying that the Middle East countries should also play a role, because they have given a strong place for the Indians in their land, and all those business communities and all those big companies, they have like Indians over there, like Pakistanis are in minority over there. So if they consider Pakistanis as their own, they should give them strong positions in Middle East. So that we can give Indians a reply over there.
I understand. Now, please go.
I have to say something to augment. The Americans have actually told the Indians, because they are friendly nowadays, the Indians had probably put 3 of our sites, strategic sites, on target, and the Americans told them, you better not mess with the Pakistanis, because 27 of your sites. So let the Indians know, we are going to raise them to bloody ground if they try to do it with us. We are better prepared than them. Our missile defense system is much better than them. So we will make sure India is raised to ground if they even try it. This is not the Pakistan
This is what
of 1971 or
also said, sir,
1974.
that at the end of the day, you will be able to finish Pakistan, but we'll be able to finish all the Hindus.
Completely.
So that is the point. And I
they
hope
dare
they
not
do
do
understand, because at the end of the day, sir, when it comes to that level, we won't back out. We are totally prepared. We have fought enough, and Pakistan was created for a very, very noble reason, and perhaps this could be the noble reason. We want peace in the region. If they don't want, sir, I'll just give you one example. I was just reading out something very funny also. It said, since Modi came into power in 2014, Hindu mobs have lynched dozens of Muslims, mainly Muslims and Dalit Hindus, suspected of illegally transporting cows or consuming beef. Now, India is the largest exporter of beef, sir. Unfortunately, these people...
And halal.
Sir, halal. Now, they drink the urine to get, cure for whatever diseases they have. They apply the cow dung on their faces, on the body, to be safe from the nuclear radiation. I mean, this is the stupid kind of mindset they have. And this is among people who are even educated. Forget about the other ones. Sir, what is this going on? Are they normal people? Are they living in this 21st century? What are they up to?
When they go and take bath in Ganga, that is the filthiest place.
Sir, I'll give you one reason, sir. I'll give you a very interesting, I was in fact watching it last night. Ganges, as they call it in English, Ganga, you know the pollution level, normally the worst pollution level is, there is a certain level at which they count it, that is 200. 200 is like the worst water which you are not supposed to drink. In Ganga, it is 1 million. Imagine. Anyway, go on.
So we were talking, so these Indians, as you talked about,
2,000 tons of half-burnt flesh.
I'm going back to that point where they're deploying their weapons now, and you said that 2022 could be a year of war. Be our guests. Come over. We'll tell you what it means. They did it in 1971 by intrigue. They did not fight it. They sent in Mukti Bahani. So whenever they have tried to fight with us, they've seen what we have done to them. And the very recent example, can you imagine a nation as stupid as this? They have given Veer Chakar to Abhinandan. Shame on you, Indians. Shame on you. His plane was gunned down and you've given him Veer Chakar. What a miserable. And this is the kind of nation we are dealing with.
Their own military, and rather their own air force is involved in the killing of their own CDS, imagine.
Yes. The Tejas airplanes that they have made, the so-called Tejas, even the Indian Air Force is not willing. This Bipin Rawat was forcing them to take the Tejas. They refused. There was a serious mistrust between the Air Force and Navy and Bipin Rawat. So there's a lot of undercurrents going on in India. And the Bipin Rawat inquiry, sooner or later, they will come out what happened there. The question is, Indians first have to put their own house in order, which cannot go into order because of their own doings.
There could be a revolt within the Indian military, sir.
True.
Because there are a couple of good good officers there as well, sir.
I don't see a revolt within the Indian military, yes, but I do see that they refuse to fight. The numbers of suicidal deaths inside the Indian army is shockingly high. I think, if I'm not wrong, I think since 2007 till date, I think it's 524. Compare that with Pakistan, probably there's none in Pakistan.
No, we haven't heard.
So, why is this so? Because what they do to it, they force the people to fight. We don't have to force our people to fight. Our soldiers, we fight for our
They
faith.
volunteer.
We fight for our faith and we are willing to give our lives for the faith. What are they fighting for? Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, all inside the Indian army. They don't have one commonality. We have one thing common, to defend our
Motherland.
Ideological frontiers. So that's why, even if they don't revolt, their will to fight is not there. And their equipment. In last year, you remember, their equipment was used and tested and miserably failed. Air defense equipment.
Sir, 70% of their equipment is obsolete.
They tried to help the Armenians, and Azerbaijanis gave them the taste of their life. When their equipment, the air defense equipment failed there, their missiles failed there. So the question is, when you have such inferior things, how do you think you want to become a world power? You can only become a world power by peace. And they are not even going there. I've always been saying, and I'm a proponent, and Praveen Swani as an Indian, he keeps saying, India does not have a choice but trilateral cooperation with Pakistan and China. You can't be at war with your neighbors and prosper. There is abject poverty in India. People sleep on the streets of Bombay and Delhi, and they don't have anything to eat. And India is going on and designing things to annihilate others. That's not going to work. They've just spent $5.8 billion on S-400 for what? They put it on the Punjab border. That's a demarcated land. And they still forget that Pakistani missile defense systems are much better than theirs. But they can try that. So what I'm trying to say is, this jingoism has to stop. This can only stop.
The $1 million question is where it
This can only stop if the Americans, which have now taken sides with them, they realize that instead of selling our weapons, we need to make this world a better place for everyone to live.
But sir, for the Americans, I think their military-industrial complex is more important than lives. Simple
That's
as
the unfortunate
that.
truth.
Now, Mustafa sahab, you wanted to add something. Sorry, we had to cut you because Janjua sahab was talking.
Yes,
Please go ahead.
Faisal, I would like to say that, writers like Arundhati Roy, who
Yeah, yeah.
have been advocate of the minorities in India have been silenced and they are cornered just because of their vision and just because of their perspective to defend the minorities in India. So such is the insecurity in India right now. And people like, Barkha Dutt even, so, she's also being marginalized just because having a soft corner for Muslims in India. So this is the narrow-mindedness of, sorry to say the whole, we can't say the whole India, but the Modi mindset, the Modi India, which is the Hindutva India. So which is like very narrow-minded in terms of tolerance, in terms of acceptance, in terms of integration of minorities. And secondly, I would like to add that Modi has been taught a very brilliant lesson by Pak Army recently when we caught Abhinandan and had gave him a cup of fantastic tea, and then we handed him over. So that was a brilliant step by Pak Army and our brave soldiers, by brave armed forces. So we can do it again as well. We are ready for that. So in India
And
or in
interestingly, when
any
his
other
plane
country
was
cannot
shot
even
down,
think about
let me
messing
add
around with
one thing.
Pakistan.
Yeah, let me add one thing. When his plane was shot down, interestingly, that MiG-21 Bison had 4 missiles, and all of them were intact. Not even a single one was fired. And
Yes.
that character was presented with that military award, whatever Chakar was that. That was a Chakar actually, not the Veer Chakar, but the global Chakar, as they give Chakar to everybody. So the interesting part was that Chakar was given to him, and the Chakar was given to the entire Indian population also. God knows if this is the level of distribution of their awards. I mean, God knows. Then
In fact, if
literally,
they had a little bit of integrity, they would hang their head in shame rather than giving him a chakra or whatever, medal which they have given him. Because ultimately, he brought shame to the whole nation of India. The way he surrendered himself and the way he was, praising Pak Army. So he lost it. India lost the battle there and then.
and one more thing which I want to share, interestingly, that I was one of the Indian channels, and we were having a word with one of their journalists, and interestingly, his name was also Mr. Rohit Sharma. Let me take the name. So Mr. Rohit Sharma, in fact, once the program was concluded, so we were still talking, and he said, well, there are a lot of ifs and buts regarding the shoot down of that so-called the F-16, which the Indians claim. I mean, even the Indian majority or the people, even in their media, they also understand that it was an absolute BS and nothing had happened, and they're just claiming it for the heck of it, for their own, just to make sure that the shame.
Only for the domestic Indian population.
Exactly, for the
Otherwise,
consumption of the
the
domestic
Americans have to
population,
come
correct.
here and counted their F-16s. And
So
by the way,
basically,
I
they
just
are
wanted
just
to
trying
add,
to satisfy their
after
own
that
ego.
incident,
There is nothing more in that. They are just trying to satisfy their own ego because they know that they have lost the battle. And it's just that a matter of time that Pakistan will soon teach them a good lesson, and we will take back the Kashmir which they have occupied and suppress the people of Kashmir. We will not let India
no,
to
sir,
suppress
I
them
need to correct
anymore.
you. I'm sorry. They have not. We have taken Kashmir in 1948 and we'll take back the remaining one as well. We took back from them the one that they captured. So we took it from them in 1948. So let's be all on the same page that we have taken Kashmir from them, that they had snatched from us, and we'll take the rest of it back as well.
And we don't need to do anything. This continued policy of the BJP will make sure that India is broken into parts. The 7 sister states, I think it's a matter of a day for the Chinese to separate them. Whatever has been happening there, I think they do not understand. Whatever is happening in Kashmir, we all know. Now they are really scared. That's why all these laws are implemented and certain ones are removed. And then you talk about Khalistan, sir. I think they will soon understand what Sikh community means. I mean, they are brave people, brave sons of soil, and they will not take anything which is not acceptable to them, sir, and they have proven it. Not once, not twice, on many, many occasions. But, sir, with this, I think we will be coming to the end of our program, sir. Thank you so much, Janjua Saab. It was a pleasure to have you, Mustafa Baloch Saab. Thank you so much for your time as well. And so, this is all we have for this hour. I'll see you, inshallah, again on Monday at 8:05 p.m. Till then, you take good care of yourself. Have a great weekend. Merry Christmas to all the brothers and sisters from the Christian community. And I'll see you on Monday, inshallah. Till then, Khuda Hafiz.